right, welcome to the Delayed Gratification Podcast. I have a very special guest today, somebody that is really, really important to me, and I want you guys to know why she's important to me, but why she's going to be important to you, especially around building wealth. Jennifer.
Hello.
I'm going to give you a chance to introduce yourself, but I got a question, and this is something that we talk about in the entrepreneurial wealth building space, and you take it a little bit deeper. We always go into how important is mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for you, you talk about how important the mental state is for building wealth. Tell me why the mental state, and how did you get there, like really talking about the mental state in building wealth?
So we talk about mental wealth. Mental wealth is a lot of different things other than just a financial money part of it. Just as a cognitive behavior therapist, I think about your mindset, how your thoughts affect your behavior. And so as you're moving into things, you're thinking about your thoughts and your behavior. Ultimately, you shift your life. So when you think about your mental wealth, what are those things actually that can help you to be whole? Whether it's time of self-care or it's positive talk and positive thought, all of those things. And they are equally as important when you're building financial wealth to combine all of those things.
Man. You said cognitive. You use some big words. I want to make sure that we understand what you do. And then you can, matter of fact, just tell us who you are. And then
Very well. So I'm Jennifer Lester. I am a licensed psychotherapist. I am a mental health advocate. I am a public speaker. I'm an author of a book called 14 Ways to Find Your Amazing. And in fact, I'm celebrating 5 years of helping people find their amazing around the world. I'm a cognitive behavioral therapist. I believe that your thoughts affect your behavior. You change your thoughts, you change your behavior, and ultimately you can change your life.
Thoughts, change your behavior.
Change your life.
Change your life.
Change your life.
Wow. Yeah. So I'm going to be a little personal.
Okay.
So about 5 years ago, I had to come and lay my head back on the sofa.
Okay.
Right? and what I will say is, prior to that, there were some blockages, and still it's going to be take time, but there were some blockages to me growing, and some things happened. And I know I needed some help, right? Do you help everybody, or is there a special category of people that you help?
So in addition to being a psychotherapist, I also am a life coach, and at little known fact, I'm a hypnotherapist. So funny, really, people come like, oh, can you hypnotize me? But honestly, when I can help anybody. And so because it's your mental state, and everybody's mental state is different. And what I talk about in my book on defining your amazing is that everybody amazing is different. It's really looking at that purpose, that one thing that you were created specifically for. But it's interesting when you talked about how your mental block. Now you said it because confidentiality didn't allow me to say it. You said you were laying your head on my shoulder. And honestly, that's the biggest thing. A lot of people come and say that I'm blocked or I'm stuck. And I was speaking to a group at the Omni Hotel in Atlanta, and I was talking about being stuck. And you're never really stuck. You only using old ways to open new doors, and it just doesn't work. And so what the strategy is, or what my tips and tools of strategy is that, can help people to kind of use other ways. Let's say if I was a fighter, I may have to fight for my community where I come from. But as you grow and you become more aware or triggers, or your circle is different, you no longer need to use that strategy to survive anymore. But I'm still using it, and it doesn't work. And we find ourselves stuck.
But what do you recommend? Because when we're stuck, right? Mm-hmm. Most of us don't know we're stuck, and it took a long time for us to get stuck. Mm-hmm. So how do you help us get unstuck and not get stuck again?
An easy way, I think, Ramon, is to thinking about being stuck is that I am, it's called like the rocking horse syndrome. I'm moving, but I see no progress. Or motion doesn't mean progress. And so I'm doing some things, but I'm still yielding the same result. But I know I'm putting the effort. It's probably the same old ways that you're using, so they don't yield new result. And so the easier place to see is like, measuring my progress. Like, how am I going? Whether it is financially, whether it's emotionally, whether it's your own goals, whatever it is that's a clear way to feel like, hey, I'm stuck. These are things that, and so to change that, you kind of employ new strategies and new tools or try something different. It's easy to be consistent in the old way. Because we're comfortable, we're familiar with that. A little bit of anxiety comes up when we got to try something new. I feel a little bit different when I try to, when it's something, it's new, let me try it. But being stuck is that, it's easy to be unstuck, So it's ways that we taught ourselves.
So yeah, we taught ourselves the ways to get stuck, right? But getting unstuck, and I'm going to stay here for a second.
Come on.
Where do I go? Because most of us, let me back up. So I know you a couple of ways, right? But many people know, and they call you this, and I was laughing, you're like the person that helped the stars. Right?
Oh, therapist to the stars, kind of move,
to the stars. But for most of us, we don't have the circle of people to say, you know what, you've been there for a while. You want to be better. You want to build wealth. You want to be better for your family. Where do we go? Because I wouldn't know where to go if I didn't have a recommendation to come to you.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of stigmas in our community about mental health. Now people are using life coaching a lot. Which is a really good place as coach. I don't care what level of play, whether you are little league or you're in the pros. I think coaching is a great place to have, for every star, whatever you are, have had a coach. But it's an easy way into self-help. So I don't have to say I'm in a therapist. I have a therapist, because then people associate the therapist with, oh, I'm crazy, or you're not the sharpest knife in the drawer, or all of the things that come with when you talk about mental health, particularly mental health in our community and mental health with men. And so it is recommendation or lowering those stigmas that, mental health is great. It's brave. It takes brave, someone who's really self-aware to say, I need help. And so looking at that, when you be on, this is a key to know that you can need some professional help. When I've exhausted my friends, my coworkers over it, my network of people have heard the same story over and over, and they've given you all that they can. It's time for maybe another professional approach to be able to help you to move forward.
You said especially men.
Men, especially men. Especially men.
So why especially men?
Because there is a expectation of men to be strong, not to show emotion. You think about when you were younger, if you, a very example, I was working with a group of early educators, and it was a little boy and a little girl that were on a trike. And the little boy fell off and he scraped his knee, and the little girl fell off and scraped her knee. They all ran over to the little girl and they go, oh my goodness, they start kissing, they start doing it. And then the little boy, they was like, oh, you all right, you tough, you don't have to cry. His knee was scraped to the white meat and bleeding just like hers was. And I'm sure he hurt equally, but he had to suppress his emotions. You don't show it. You strong. You a boy. Tough up. You all right. With the little girl, they put a cute little Band-Aid on hers, and they hugged her. Somebody had ice, and she got the hold. They held her the whole time. And so then at that very early age, we're boys and learn to suppress their emotions. So then where do you go when you're 30? You expect them now to be able to say, hey, talk about feelings and emotions. And, they don't have it. They haven't practiced it. We've been practicing as girls since we were about 2.
So what does that do to us, though, when we're suppressing our emotions? What do you feel like that does, and how do you help us not suppress them?
So that's a very good point. So you think about it, if when your emotions are suppressed, it's like in a bottle, so you shake up a bottle and you open it up and it pops, it blows off. It's going to blow off at some point. And so then when I don't show it, it shows other ways. I may lead to unhealthy habits, eating, drinking, a lot of different stuff, or exposure, go all the way off, and then you kind of think about it and bring it back down instead of letting it be something that's natural help. And because of that, it can hinder and affect every area of your life. And so, I know you specialize in wealth and building wealth, and that's a hindrance. What I've seen that, people come and they say, oh, I got this place, I'm stuck. And I realize it's things from their past. And that's the difference between the life coaching and the therapy. When it's things from your past that's holding you hostage, it's more, you need therapeutic work. If you got a particular goal, I'm just trying to build to that goal, then it's more life coaching. But it's things from their past that's really keeping them from acquiring the wealth and the success that they need, that they're looking for.
Ooh. Man, we got some work to do.
We have work to do, but it's a lot. What's uplifting is that these conversations like this, and the events that you have where it's men. I know you were doing one thing where you were just bringing men into play and that's a great place, because they need it just as much as women. It's just that they need to be in a place where they feel safe and free to be able to open to talk about their stressors.
So and this is any life coach, I'm gonna call it life coach, right? When I start on the journey with working with a life coach, what kind of time frame should I expect? Because is it gonna happen overnight? We're gonna fix me, or not fix me, but get me unstuck.
Get you unstuck.
I don't want to say fix me.
Give you some strategies,
right? But what do you normally tell people? Like, again, we want things in this kind of one of those ages where everything's supposed to happen overnight.
Microwave.
But if I'm 40 years old and I've been holding this stuff in with these habits, how long should it take us to fix them?
Each person is different.
Okay.
So your time, it's just like when you're dealing with something like grief. You know, somebody may be able to grieve differently and it's over, and somebody may take 2 or 3 years. There is no time frame on it. It is a consistency in work. So the difference between who you are and who you want to be is consistent. It's consistent. So how consistent you are to working on that is how fast you'll see the results.
Who I am and who I want to be.
It's consistent.
So one of the biggest problems in that distance, we don't know who we want to be.
Right.
Right, and figuring out who we want to be, finding our purpose is still I think a scary topic for people, because sometimes it takes your whole life to figure out your purpose.
Life. You know what? So an easy thing for me when people come. So my company is called the Purpose Project. It's celebrating 14 years of being in business as a multidisciplinary behavioral health practice. But when people come to me and they're asking me, how do I know my purpose? How to figure out my purpose? One of the first places that I push them back to is that, what do your friends call and ask you to do? So not what you want to do or not what you think that you're so good at, but what do your friends call and ask you to do? And so if you're saying that I want to be a chef, but nobody's asked you to make the potato salad for the barbecue, nobody asked you to bring the mac and cheese to the Thanksgiving dinner, probably not what you're strong in. But if people are always calling you, asking you financial advice, or people are always calling you, ask you to organize something, or people are calling you to ask you to help with help manage things right here, that's usually probably what you're really good at. Not what you want to be good at, but what you're naturally good at is what your friends and your family ask you to do often.
I never thought about it that way. What did my friends ask me? No, I don't think that's my purpose with it.
Not if they keep calling you, asking you for money. Like, hey, can I borrow? Let me get $1,000? So if they're calling you for that, but usually your skill set lies because what people see is what you're really good at. And so I was helping a young lady, like, oh, they called me, asked me for advice. What they probably seen is that you've given advice before in the past that worked, or they see that you make good, strong decisions for yourself. And so they're asking you for some of that. That's what people are asking you for. And it's usually where your giftedness lies.
So, that purpose, it takes time to develop it, right?
I think it takes time to rediscover it.
Okay.
I think you already had it. You showed up here with it. I think that the outside noises from your family, from your friend, from media, social media, help to drown it. And so they said that, when your inside voice becomes louder than your outside voice, you've mastered life. When your inside voice becomes louder than your outside voice, you've mastered life.
I'm getting there.
So, yeah. So, the voices of so many different things. I had a client one day, she was an ER doctor, and she said that she wanted to be an IT. And I told her, you never want to be a doctor anyways. Culturally, her family told us, if you're in the medical field, you'll never work. You always say you never not work. You always have a job. It was just such a noble career to have. It wasn't what she was passionate about. Your passion leads you to your purpose. If you don't know where, you can't discover it. And those things that you're passionate about kind of moves you in that way and puts you there. So the amazing thing is that when passion and purpose collide, though, so when they match up, that's when you begin to touch and change everyone around you.
Ooh, I like that one. So we're on the Delayed Gratification Podcast, right? And so one of the things, what you just said is, I know my purpose. I got passion for it, but it's so many things delaying it, challenges, distractions, life. How do we get through that to realize?
To really be on track.
Collide.
Oh, let me tell you that if fear, and you've known this and you've heard this, many people, motivational people said it, fear have cured more dreams than anything else. So there's fear. So I talk about adding more love to your life. And so when you add more love, it's more gratitude, more more of what you want. You focus on that which I want. So fear leads us so often. Either you're the master or the slave of your life, right? And so this is even in money, finance, and this is really a good tie back to the financial and the wealth part of it. In life, we could be sitting here, we're having this same conversation. You're here on the Gratification Podcast, the Delayed Gratification Podcast, and I'm doing this because I got to do it because, I got to feed my family. I got to try to make some money to do that. I got to. That's fear. You are the slave. If I do it because I want to, I wake up and I can't imagine myself doing anything but this. I know that what I'm doing is going to change worlds, change lives and stuff. I'm the master of my life. Because same thing. One, I do it because I want to. The other one, do it because I have to. One is led from fear. One is led out of love. One is master of your life. The other one, you become the slave of your life.
Does that apply to parenting too?
You can add it to a parenting decision. I base every decision on if it's made out of love or if it's out of fear.
So I can stop parenting tomorrow?
God, I got to. You know what I'm saying? Not that I want to. Yeah, now that part right there, you can't give that piece up. No, that can't be. But you think about this: the people that you're working with, you're helping acquire wealth. Some of them doing it because, I got to feed my family. I got to do this. And then that's led out of fear. But when it becomes led out of love, it flows naturally. I'm doing it because I want to change my whole scope of what our future look like, the future for my family and children, for understanding what it makes me feel good to wake up every day to know that I'm working towards something. That's love. If I'm doing it because I'm just trying to invest in this real estate and trying to figure this money out because, we got to eat around here. And it's just, I might as well do it. It's fear. Leads it.
So I'm at an age where, all of my friends are, and I got new friends that are younger. You know what I mean? But most of my friends are thinking about, we're kind of in the middle. We're retiring, we're thinking about retirement, and then we're thinking about what's happening with our kids. Mm-hmm. So we're in that middle. So the gratification piece of that is, I want to say retire because I don't think I ever want to stop doing what I do because I love doing what I do, right? But I want to get to a point where I know that the next few generations okay, and I know that I put into them all I could.
But you can.
When do we realize we're okay with that? How long does that take? What does that look like for most people? Because that causes a lot of anxiety, and especially, I'm gonna go back to, I'm not talking to the ladies, but I'm talking to the men. That's why we are stressed out a lot because we're figuring out, are we providing properly? Are we protecting properly? Are we putting up for the future properly?
Right.
Did we do the right thing for those kids? It's a lot going on.
It is a lot. I think when you get towards that, I see a lot of people that show up when they're 40. At 40. When they're 40 hit, you realize they start thinking, I got more life behind me than I have in front of me. And then there's something in there, start thinking about that dash. What matters then, before then everything else, but that in between from whatever you were born to that in the middle and making a difference. I see that happen a lot. It's a shift. Something changes in your thought and mind for that. And so I think that one of the things I liked about just in life and purpose, you just never stop. When you say retiring, it's just sometimes you retire, but it's a different just path that you're on. It's another different, your second life, as they call, it's figuring out something else. But what I find is that somehow your purpose is always tied back into it some kind of way. You never escape it. It hunts you, chases you, follows you, stalks you.
What do you think happens at 40? 40?
I don't know. You know what? Something happens at 40. You think about when you hit 40, when something clicks in your mind, thinking you start feeling okay. You remember we used to think back oh my God, 40 was so old, but now
you remember that?
You remember thinking that 40 is, when I tell you is you're living, but something happens in us that clicks and says that let me stop playing. Let me make my life this part of my life worth living, or what am I contributing? You start thinking if somebody had to say something to me today, what is it that they would say? You know what I'm saying? So you start thinking that piece of it at 40, and 40 and beyond. And then you start shifting and changing. People trying to, I want matter. What am I leaving? What am I doing? Because now you're 20 and 30, you partied. We were invincible in that time. Then you start realizing I got a little aches and pains. I might not be as invincible or tough as I thought. So 40 something clicks in your mind.
And a lot of who I have a chance to interact with are 40 plus, right? And those conversations have changed. Now, I've been pretty serious, probably too serious in my life. So when I hit 40, I started thinking about, like, even as recently, just thinking about, what did I miss? I posted something on social media, and I said, you know what? I've never watched the entire movie of Life, the movie Life. People were like, you really tripping. I said, I've never been to an HBCU football game. They're like, are you crazy, bro? But what I did was all of my young years, I partied a little bit, but I worked like crazy. So now I'm reflecting on, I was working like crazy, wanting to be so grown so fast, right? Wanting to protect, provide, stressed out. I want to make sure that, and I'm at that point doing it because I want to make the money. I wasn't doing it just because I loved it. I figured out I love the real estate world, early on, but I was doing it, I want to make some money. So it's changing a lot. So, in doing that, that gratification piece hadn't come in yet. From all the works I did before, the gratification piece that I've gotten thus far is I provided for the family. But for me personally, think about that. I never seen the movie Life. I watched it this weekend.
Did you?
I finally watched it.
What you think about it?
It was a really good movie.
It was good.
At the time, I laughed.
You get mad at him because, like, this old man life is messed up because of somebody else's. But yeah, it's a funny movie.
And then going to HBCU game, when I posted that, it must have been yesterday, day before. People were like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, I literally was sitting at the barbershop next to Clark Stadium and stand outside sometimes, look at the fence and watch the band when the game was on. But I never went to the game because me sitting still long enough, I was going to get any gratification out of sitting at the game at that point. Now, I got two girls at two HBCUs, so I got to go.
You got to go.
So I'll get more out of it because now I'm enjoying the game, the band, but I'm enjoying my children enjoying themselves. Yeah. I think I get more gratification out of that. So that is,
and you put in the work early on.
Yeah, we got some more work to put in. But I enjoy the work. I have enjoyed the work because I was able to provide for the family. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of us like you said, when we hit 40, we start thinking about that. How long, what is that gratification? When do I start to feel that gratification? How long does it have to be delayed? Is it 60? Because our parents and grandparents, really, their gratification was 60 plus when they retired. What was retirement age? 65?
65, like,
65. So that's when they finally got, now the kids all okay. How long should we have to wait? Like, can we get smaller increments of gratification?
You should be getting it along the way, though.
Okay.
So delay is not denied. So it's kind of like it's a little bit, here and there, because it's what keeps you going, though. You know what I'm saying? So it keeps you going because you want to feel good about something. You think about, that's why you keep score. You keep score instead because I'm thinking, like, it's counting your wins. And just a small little wins along the way kind of keeps you motivated.
You know what's crazy? I didn't celebrate wins. I'm learning how to do it now. I remember I graduated from law school, and I was like, okay, y'all, it's 6 o'clock. It's time we need to go look at some houses. Like, everybody was like, no, bro, we got to go out to eat. We got to pop some balloons.
Right.
But I just now learning, like, okay, you just closed something, or the house just got painted. Man, let's just be happy that I would never do it. And that caused, when I look back, it caused a lot of, I'm going to say anxiety and stress, because I just went from one thing to the next without stopping to celebrate. So is that celebration a part of, because I see some people celebrate too much now, in my opinion.
And I'm going to agree with that opinion. Some things it's like, oh, I have I was going to say a little bit, but a lot of that in you, that you have in there. And I think most, like a lot of hard workers or entrepreneur people or kind of, I'm like, Jeezy, I want to celebrate when my summer's out, like when it's all. It's Atlanta coming out. But you start thinking about, for me with celebration pieces. Yeah, I celebrate, but in my head I'm also thinking like I can't win a game with yesterday points, the points that I scored in the other game. So it's just kind of but it does cause you to go on and keep going on and on and on. And with that, you don't get a chance to say you have to take a moment just to kind of celebrate or give thanks, some type of gratitude, like thanks for being able to accomplish this or whatever, just to kind of reflecting a bit, and then we move on to the next. And then it's almost like I never get to a point or end. It just continues to go. And like you said, a lot of anxiety and a lot of stresses that come from that. So you got to take a moment, even for yourself.
Do you think that's a male thing? 'Cause a lot of my friends, we say the same thing. Like, we really didn't celebrate because we feel like that scoreboard is changing. Well, like it's almost like going back to zero every morning. Like every morning it's back at zero. So I didn't take that week-long vacation. Yeah. I didn't take 2 days off. I didn't, Yeah. So is that do you think that's primarily a male thing? And then why, especially in our community, why a lot of us are so stressed out?
It can be. I definitely think it's a male thing because of pressure. You're there to provide, to protect, to all of that. And so when you don't do that, then your standard of who you are as a male is measured against that. So the anxiety of I want to be a man, I want to be the best man, and I only can be shown this way. So ain't no days off, So I used to think sleep is for suckers. So there's some women that are grinding and they're grinding. I just take light naps. Sleep's on for suckers. But you gotta rest sometimes. So that's how you renew. And so to renew your mind, your body, and your spirit by getting the rest in or just celebrating. Celebration comes with that endorphin kind of burst of things. And so, but it keeps you ready for the next thing, gets you because you know how to tap into that feeling again.
So again, I'm over 40.
Okay.
Right. And like you said, you start to think about 40 years behind us. If I get another double of what I am, I've had good life, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But we still need to be taught, because I was taught from kind of the older generation. You just work, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't see my dad take a vacation. I mean, unless he was taking us, and that taking your kids on vacation is not a vacation.
Right.
It's really like work, right? I didn't see my grandfather take a vacation. I saw him go hunting, but I have no interest in hunting or fishing. You know why? Because I'm always moving. So I got to stop and be still to do those things. And so how do we, other than getting around the right people, I know that's one, but how do you help somebody like me get to a point where I want some gratification now? I want to make sure that in the long run, I feel it all and I can, enjoy it all. But like now along the way, what is that? What do we do?
You have to be able to take sometimes for yourself. And sometimes that we're so occupied with doing for others, doing in our business, that we don't even know what makes us happy. And so you figure it out. For you, is that, am I happy by just sitting home alone? Do I like just going out to different restaurants? Am I interested in just having a friend gathering, or just kind of what is it that makes you happy? And you got to add more of that into your life. More than because in the end, when it's all said and done, you want to say, yeah, I did everything it is that I wanted to do.
I like that.
Because what are you working for? But one of the things that my mom used to say, sometimes it's kind of, I think of like, oh, Mom, but then I think of like, it's good. She was like, that's what you're working for then. That's what you work for. That's what you work. Go spend that money. That's what you're working for. And I'm thinking like, Mom, sometimes, because their financial thoughts are how they did was like, financially moving this, and they may not know. But she's absolutely right. Then what are you doing it for? Go ahead and celebrate sometime.
Because I'm teaching other people how to build wealth, right? And financially, the money is always gonna come, right?
Right.
But the money can come and go.
Absolutely.
They can say tomorrow the American dollar is worth nothing. So what have I built? And all of this is for what, right?
Yeah.
I like what you said when you first started, mental wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanna definitely. How do I build up mental wealth?
That's
like, how do I store it up? Can I pass mental wealth to the next generation?
Absolutely. And so what you talked about before is that you never saw your dad go take a vacation, or your granddad. And so they passed that to you. So then what you're doing right now, the habits and the things that you do ongoing, you're passing that to your children. They either say, oh, I'm gonna be just like that and workaholic, or I'm not gonna do any of that. It's just one or the other. But your mental wealth part is the piece on there that you're saying that if I acquired all this finances and I cannot enjoy it, and so what, or I have not enjoyed it, the mental wealth part is about the memories that you create for yourself. So I got all this money, and so what, I can remember like, oh yeah, we worked really hard for that. What did you enjoy with it? Because the purpose of acquiring the worth is to allow you to be able to have this lifestyle, this freedom that other people don't have, the freedom to be able to do what you want, to be able to live your summers off, you know what I'm saying, or not work any of that. So then what are you acquiring the wealth for if you don't get a chance to enjoy it just now?
So the fear of not being able to enjoy it now, but hopefully later, is that I'm always able to provide. Because I have, and a lot of that comes with continue to work on myself mentally, is remembering the really bad times. It actually is stronger than remembering. Man, you remember when we were okay? I remember, man, I don't want to be. And a lot of us say, man, I don't ever want to feel like I slept in the car. You know, thank God I've never had to sleep in the car, but I don't ever want to. Remember the paper food stamps? So I remember those. So a lot of people got EBT cards, but they look just like debit cards, so we don't know the difference.
So you don't know the difference.
But the stigma of holding that book in your hand, the brown one, the blue one, right?
The blues and the purples and whatever colors, yeah.
Right. So you know, some of that's in the back of my mind. You know what I mean? And so I think sometimes, and like you said, my dad passed on hard work, like really hard work, working for yourself, being an entrepreneur, but really hard work, right? I never seen him take like, okay, I'm gonna take Sunday off for just me, right?
What you said earlier, about like your memories, you know, it triggers. That's trauma. So it's trauma. It's traumatic. It brings up as triggers. So when I think of this memory, it triggers a response. The response that it triggers for you is that I'm going to work harder because I don't ever want to feel like that again. The feeling of knowing what that paper food stamp felt like or what it felt like not having or being able to provide is stronger than any other feeling that you have. So that's why it triggers you to work that way. So then it's a trauma response while you're working so hard. So then you have to be able to manage the trauma and all of that, you know, getting in depth into that, but also have new memories, and so other memories become in the forefront of that.
Does reading your book help?
You know, read
it 3 or 4 times.
Yes. So reading the books helps. Is really more on you moving towards your purpose piece on it. That trauma piece on there and building resilient. This summer I did a lot of training just around the nation about building resilient, being resilient. And that resilient piece comes, everybody's going to experience some type of trauma in your life. Things will be harder. And so it's not that, you know, you won't experience how you respond to that trauma. How do you become more resilient? And doing that, I did a whole test on how resilient you are, and says about 57% of Americans are less resilient than they think they are. Usually 83% thinks they're pretty strong and resilient. About 57% are, you know, how do you bounce back? It really is, how do you bounce back? And so you seem to be pretty resilient.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, your bounce back game is strong. You're pretty resilient, but in that resilience is other things in yourself, and then, you know, taking time for yourself and some other, you know, ways of building resilience and creating those new memories and being able to smile and laugh in your circle, your inner circle, and those people are that. But what you have to convince yourself and remember that I'm no longer there. So that's when you're stuck. Those old memories come back up. Like, I don't ever want to feel like that. It is a good motivator, but every time you need to be motivated, you think of a traumatic experience to motivate you, and you're reliving it. So it's kind of, it's not necessarily the healthiest.
Yes.
Yeah.
But now you said trauma.
Yes.
So, you know, when I think about trauma, I only think about physical
trauma, really.
Right? The ER, like you going. So again, I'm going to talk to the men, right? How do we know, like, when you just said that, like, that was trauma as a kid, but I didn't go to the ER.
You didn't go to the ER?
I didn't go to the mental ER.
Right.
Because we were told, hey, shut up, you're going to be all right, go in there, take a shower, wash your face, Go to school.
Get it together. You think about this. So there are different kind of trauma. You got chronic trauma. You got acute trauma. You think about if I lived in the hood, right? Mm-hmm. If I got my backpack on, and every day I walk home, I'm securing my backpack and I'm making sure nobody get it. I'm looking around, making sure nobody jack me for my shoes, my starter coat, all of that stuff. And I do this every day. That's repeated trauma every day. For us, it's just kind of, it's just my way of living, but it's trauma. In my head, I am thinking of unsafe, because anytime you're feeling unsafe or you witness unsafe or, traumatic things, death, whatever it is, but that's trauma. Every day I go there thinking, like, let me lock my car, let me put my jack on my hip so somebody else still. It's trauma. Every time you go to the store and you like, your mama see you up there and say, here, take this $1 food stamp. You're trying to buy this so you get the 90-cent out. Anytime you go up here, you shame because you try to see who in the store, people that looking and stuff at you. It's a traumatic situation every time.
You know what's bad about that? Because we was all up there using the same food.
Everybody. Why and then had the socioeconomic background. Right.
So when should we, let's say I'm 40, right? And like you talked about, you issued a resiliency test or program. When should we, is there a trauma test? When should we, like today, everybody that's watching it, like what should we do? Because all of us got some
type of trauma.
Which is blocking, because all of us want to build wealth. All of us want to live great. Right? It's very rare that somebody doesn't want to live great and be able to travel. Even if you don't need the cash, you want to take the vacation and just live your life. But it's stopping us, those traumas back there. It's stopping us. It's something that's hurting us. When should we start testing, or what should we do?
The screening. So it's those things from your past that hold you hostage. That's really those traumatic stuff. It varies from person to person how they manage trauma. You could have a household of 5 children. They all could have been in a household, an abusive household, physical abuse, verbal, all of this, and 5 of them turn out one way and 2 of them turn out a whole different way. Trauma never affected them. So it's how they process trauma. You could think about your own family. You can think about families that like God says how resilient that person was. Each person's resilience is the ability to bounce back is a little bit different. But when it starts to not allow you to progress, so whatever the experiences are in your life and whatever it is that you've been through, when it starts to really affect your daily living activity, your ability to move forward, how successful you are, you may start thinking like, let me go to a professional so that we can kind of dive into it a little bit and think about what is it from my past that's keeping me from holding me hostage or keeping me from being my best self. And so when you start to look at that, that's when you need to know. And so from my professional, let's see that sometimes people like, it may be something at work where I can't move forward. They're hiring me. It may not necessarily be the absence or lack of skill or talent. It may be things from your past that's not allowing you to move forward.
How do I identify that though? Because see, a lot of us, let's say it's an entrepreneur or somebody, I'm working a 9 to 5, right? And just not getting where I want to get. I'm just not where I want to be. Some of it is, I'm just not going to get there because I'm not putting things in place. Place. How do I determine what's the difference? Like I work really hard. I get up every day. I want to be better, right? I'm watching all the podcasts. I'm watching YouTube. I'm reading all the books. I'm doing everything that I can, right? How do I know the difference in it's just not my time, or I ain't doing the right things, or I need to go revisit maybe that one stumbling block from the past?
I think that's your time to get a personal coach. But if you're talking about emotions, see, what made me notice your thing immediately is when you said my memories of these bad times were heavily than my good time. It lets me know there's some type of trauma. There's something there that happened. And so we may not necessarily use these eloquent words or all of the technical terms or this trauma and stuff, but knowing that when there are things from your thoughts, because these are your thoughts now, your thoughts are happening, they move your actions. So my thought says that I don't ever want to live like that. So my actions that I work hard, I become a workaholic. I never stop working because I don't ever want to feel like I felt before. That the mere past experience caused you to move that way. And so we all are really a sum of our experiences, but then when there are negative experiences that cause you to move that way, kind of, some things from trauma. So you're thinking about that. So it may be hard for you to identify what it is, but if you're thinking like it is a negative past experience that caused me to act a certain way, then maybe I can talk to somebody else to help me to figure that out, or reframe it, or change it, or help work through that.
Because I'm okay. I'm gonna talk about me, right? I can have 500 deals go right, and one not go right, and that one that doesn't go right, I would let it drag me so bad. Like I'm like, man, every day. Like I don't think about the 500 that went great. I only focus on that one, and I'm stuck on that one. So that's part of. I don't know what that is, but I promise you, when something doesn't go right, I get stuck on that thing. That no matter how many things went right.
You stuck on, but are you stuck on it thinking like, okay, where did I go wrong? What could I have done? Are you stuck on it blaming yourself, thinking like, God, how did I let this happen? Or so it's you. It's more you than the technical situation.
Yeah, it's me. I'm like, man, it's me. Like, how did I let that happen? Right. And we take the human factor out because a lot of times people say I act like a robot. The whole nine. But processing that when something goes wrong. Drags along too long. And so that's why, you have to lay your head back on the sofa sometimes. That's why you got to have those conversations. I know that. And when I know something, I want to fix it, but I need help fixing it, which is why we have amazing people like you in this world to help us fix it, especially when we know what's wrong, or we know something's wrong, but we don't know how to fix it, because you can't always fix yourself. I can say, man, I got a cold, but it's not going away. I can't keep giving myself cayenne peppers and lemon. Right? It's time to go to the doctor.
It's time to go get some help.
Time to go to the doctor. And that's part of where a lot of us, and go back to what you said about men, we mess up because we'll sit there and try to figure it out on our own. And it ain't going to happen.
And it's part of your nature. But going there to fix it out, figure it out, help somebody else figure it out, not being so hard on yourself. And that's one of the things about, some of the ways of building resilience is to be kind to yourself. We speak to ourselves more than we speak to anybody else in this world, and make what you say uplifting, inspiring. You're kind to yourself for that, because it is, it's our inner voice. That inner critic is tough. Yeah. That inner critic is tough, and especially when it's you. We got a lot of outside forces that's coming in that's criticizing. So why not you be that voice of inspiring to yourself? So be kind to yourself.
That's a good one.
Yeah, be kind to yourself.
Yeah,
and we're really tough on ourselves sometimes, but be kind to yourself.
Most of us are. Yeah, I'm tougher on myself than anybody else could imagine. Yeah. Like outside being, even as a kid, my parents, when I got it's only a few times I got less than an A. Yeah. But when I got it, oh God, I remember just like in my head, and people like, you all right? You still got an A average, but I didn't get an A on that test. So I feel crazy. You see what I'm saying? And I can now look at my habits now and go back 30 years.
You can trace it back to your 8. Your person, by the time a child is 8 years old, their personality is set for the rest of their life.
Is it?
At 8 years old. So 8-year-old shy you was probably if you're a shy 8-year-old, if you were outspoken, you think about yourself at 8 years old, your personality is set. And so who you were at 8. Now we learn differences. Let's say if I was shy, I know that in my head as a professional, I gotta get up and speak in front of this crowd. But at 8 years old, your personality is set. So it goes back that far. So that's why when you have that window of children from birth through 8, it is a critical time and to help develop that. So when you were talking about my daughter as a public speaker, by that time from 3 to 5, all she did was see her parents speak up, so it was no big deal for her. It's what we're showing. But you're showing that it's developing.
That's a whole nother, because as
a
parent, I think about, and when I feel like I'm putting a lot into my kids, I remember 3 of my kids from 1 through 8 had to go through a traumatic experience of divorce during the time of the last recession. Yeah. Right. And so sometimes I think about it now, like, I wonder how that affected them. So then that's a whole nother animal that jumps on my head. Yeah. Right. Because I want to be happy and satisfied with being a great parent. Yeah. Right. And I've done a great job, I think, and I'm gonna continue to do it because we're always a parent as long as everybody's around. But I wonder again how that's affected me, either trying to overcompensate or being too overprotective of what happened when I think about from 1 to 8. Now looking at some things, right? Woo, yeah, that's a whole nother topic. That's a whole nother one. That's a whole
Absolutely.
That's something that, because again, a lot of my gratification, and I know it's going to come 20 years from now, when I can look back and say, you know what, prayerfully, I'm a great granddaddy a few times with some, and I got my vision for what I want, right? But all of my kids are grown at that point, like really grown, because like they 21, 26, 19.
So very grown, absolutely.
Really grown. They're going to be like who we are now. You know what I mean? How do I, from now until then, do my best job? I mean, that's just a question. Like that's an
ongoing question.
That's an ongoing question. How do I, and I want to go here with your book, how do I find my 14 ways of my amazing, right?
Find your amazing.
To find my amazing, and how long does that take? And I know it takes different time, but let's talk about the book before we.
So the book is 14 Ways to Find Your Amazing. It is a extension of the work that I do in my practice. And so there are 14 essential steps in talking about, how to start on this journey to find your amazing. We are all somewhere between once upon a time and happily ever after. So, you're in the forest, and the goal is always to get to the happily ever after. And, you'll face a lot of different things. You think about any fairy tale, a lot of different things along there. But what the book identifies is a model. There's a model called the Amazing Model, which starts with vision, preparation, faith, and gratitude. And within that, when they're all used, it allows you to live this amazing life. I've worked with quite a bit of people that I would think amazing, the world would think amazing, and I realized that they had patterns, and then they had different things that, kind of watch their habits and those patterns, and these are some different things that they all had in common, was that vision, that preparation, that faith, and that gratitude that led them to have these amazing life. And so kind of in the book, the 14 steps guides you on this journey to incorporating all of those in there to be able to be your best self, your best you.
Jennifer, you show out every time we talk. I got one last question before we stop. On that journey to finding my purpose and being amazing, right? What do you think about delayed gratification and how that plays a part in it?
So with the delayed gratification, I think that one word that sticks to me was delayed. Then why is it delayed? You talked about for the ongoing gratification for that. And I think that's a piece of helping to build that resilient part, because sometimes it's going to come. But when you have some of the, when you have things that you can think about, these were a good time, it fuels you, keeps you moving, and knows that I can get back to a place where it felt like that. And that's what we all connecting our emotions. The emotions at times when things were bad, that's what you try to avoid. But then you remember when those emotions are very good, and those are things that you want to add more of your life into. So, take these guys, take those every opportunity to celebrate yourself, to count your wins, to pat yourself on the back, to, inspire yourself to be good and talk good and kind to yourself during those times. And so, give it to yourself right then. Don't deny it. Now, delay, they love to say delay. It's not denied. It's not. But every opportunity that you can, you should give it to yourself to be that.
Jennifer, thank you for being on the Delayed Gratification Podcast. I'm going to have to get you back, though, because
I'm coming back.
It was about an hour worth of stuff.
Yes.
I wasn't able to ask you. But, we're going to come back.
I'm coming back. I'm going to be a regular.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Yes.